She held the fork the wrong way. The soft sound of metal against porcelain cut through the room, followed by a quiet laugh, controlled, practiced, cruel in its subtlety. Abeni paused. She felt every pair of eyes move toward her without fully turning. No one stared openly. They never did. Rich people knew how to judge without being obvious. She adjusted her grip slowly. Her face remained calm, but her chest tightened. In that moment, she understood something clearly. This dinner was not meant to welcome her. It was meant to test her. 20 days earlier, her life had been simple and predictable. Abeni worked in a logistics office in Lagos, managing fabric shipments and inventory records. She arrived before sunrise and left when the office lights were already dim. People described her as quiet, dependable, invisible. She preferred it that way. One afternoon, her manager called her in. "The Ediemi family is hosting a business dinner," he said. "They requested someone from operations." Abeni nodded. "They asked for you specifically." That surprised her. The Ediemis were known for power, money, and ruthless business deals. They did not notice people like her. When she reached home and told her aunt, the woman stopped stirring the pot. "Those people don't invite humility," her aunt said. "They invite use." Abeni said nothing, because she already felt it.
The Adeyemi mansion looked less like a home and more like a statement. Tall gates, marble floors, staff who moved quietly like they were trained not to exist. When Abeni arrived for the first dinner briefing, Madame Kemi Adeyemi looked her over slowly. "So you're the one," she said. "Yes, ma'am." Madame Kemi's eyes lingered on Abeni's shoes, her dress, her posture. "You'll sit with us," she continued. "Smile. Speak only when spoken to. This dinner includes an international client. We must appear inclusive." Inclusive. Abeni understood the assignment. She wasn't there for respect. She was there for decoration. During the following days, Abeni noticed everything. How the family corrected staff publicly but praised them privately only when guests were present. How laughter disappeared whenever money entered the conversation. How kindness was worn like clothing, removed when unnecessary. No one asked her about her background. No one asked what she did. They assumed she was nothing more than lucky to be there. And Abeni let them believe it.
The night of the dinner arrived with perfect timing and expensive perfumes. The table was long, filled with crystal glasses and polished silverware. The client sat near the center, a calm man with observant eyes and quiet confidence. Abeni was seated at the far end. As food was served, conversation flowed effortlessly among the wealthy. Investments, property, expansion. Abeni listened. When she began to eat, she moved slowly, carefully. Food had never been something she wasted. She used her hands briefly, instinctively, before remembering where she was. That was when the laughter happened. Small, controlled, sharp. "She doesn't even know how to eat properly," someone whispered. Abeni heard it. She always did. Her face remained composed. She lowered her eyes and continued eating respectfully. Across the table, the client noticed something no one else did. He stopped talking. He watched her, quietly. As the meal continued, the family grew bolder. Subtle glances, raised eyebrows, smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Madame Teni leaned toward her sister. "This is why some people should stay in their place," she murmured. Abeni's hands trembled slightly, but she steadied them. She had learned long ago that reacting gave people power. Across the table, the client observed more than table manners. He noticed who interrupted whom, who listened, who mocked quietly, and who remained dignified without defense. When dessert arrived, conversation turned serious. Contracts,
expectations, trust. Madame Kemi smiled confidently. "We value class and refinement," she said. The client nodded slowly. His eyes drifted to Abeni, and for the first time that night, he spoke directly to her. "Where did you learn to eat like that?" he asked gently. The table went silent. Abeni looked up, surprised. She hesitated, not out of fear, but out of unfamiliarity. No one ever asked her questions at that table. "My mother," she said softly. "She taught me to respect food." The client smiled faintly. "Respect how?" Abeni swallowed. "By eating slowly, by remembering what hunger feels like." Silence spread across the table again, but this time it was different. He leaned back. "In my village," he said calmly, "only people who know hunger eat like that." Madame Kemi shifted uncomfortably. The client's gaze hardened, not toward Abeni, but toward the family. "Tell me," he continued, "do you know hunger?" No one answered, and for the first time that night, the power in the room changed. The Adeyemi family had never faced anyone like Abeni. After the client's unexpected question, the room was stiff. Madame Kemi whispered to her daughter, barely audible, "She's audacious. How dare she speak of hunger here?" Abeni could hear everything, yet she remained calm. The client, on the other hand, leaned back, observing her silently. He seemed intrigued, not offended. Dinner continued, but the laughter, once sharp and confident, now faltered. Each comment the family made was measured, forced, and ineffective. Abeni's dignity had a weight they hadn't anticipated. She ate slowly, thoughtfully. She thanked the waiter quietly for each course. It was a simple act, but in that room, it was revolutionary. The family realized something unsettling. They couldn't shame her. Not now, not in front of him. Weeks before the dinner, Abeni had lived a very different life. Her family had struggled to survive after losing their small shop in Lagos. Hunger was not a story for books or movies. It had been real. Nights without dinner, days waiting for work that might never come. She remembered sitting at a small wooden table with her younger brother, sharing one small bowl of rice between them, always savoring each bite. It was that memory that guided her tonight. She had not learned wealth or etiquette. She had learned respect for food, for effort, for life. And now, at the Adeyemi table, those lessons spoke louder than silver cutlery and crystal glasses. The client noticed this quietly, jotting notes in his mind. He had dealt with many rich families before, but he had rarely seen integrity and humility expressed so calmly in such a room. The conversation at the table shifted toward the business proposal. The Adeyemis tried to regain control. They spoke in polished tones, full of confidence, emphasizing power, profit, and image. But Abeni's calm presence acted as a mirror. Every attempt to assert superiority only exposed arrogance. The client, who had been quietly observing, interjected. "Integrity matters more than appearances. Do you all understand that?" The room froze. No one answered. Abeni smiled softly, her eyes never leaving the client's. Her slow, careful gestures and measured speech had already won respect silently. Even the family members who had laughed at her before now felt the discomfort of shame they could not hide. By the end of the main course, the family was desperate to regain control. Madame Kemi leaned forward, voice dripping with faux warmth. "Perhaps you can show us some of your perspective, girl. Teach us." Abeni looked up slowly. She chose her words carefully. "Respect is shown, not demanded. Humility is quiet, not performed. And kindness should never be conditional." A silence fell heavier than any clinking of cutlery. The client smiled. He finally addressed the family. "Your girl understands things you have yet to learn. I see more here than in years of boardrooms and contracts." Faces around the table turned pale. The Adeyemis were unprepared for this. Their mockery had failed, and their power seemed fragile now. Dinner ended, but the energy in the room had shifted irreversibly. The client asked to speak privately with Abeni. He said quietly, "You carry something rare. People like you, they remind us of what matters. Not money, not image, not control. Humanity." Abeni felt a mixture of relief and disbelief. When she rejoined the family, the table was tense. Their laughter and whispered judgments had disappeared. For the first time, the Adeyemis were uncertain. They had underestimated her, and in doing so had exposed their own weaknesses. Abeni had not said much. She had not fought back, but she had won in ways they could not comprehend. The room was quiet as dessert plates were cleared. Abeni sat calmly, hands folded. The Adeyemis exchanged anxious glances, each trying to figure out how to regain control of the evening. The client stood. Everyone leaned in slightly, unsure. "I have made my decision," he said. A collective breath held. He turned to Abeni. "I want you to lead the project from our side. Your insight, your humility, your ability to respect people and processes, that is rare. That is what I value most." A shockwave passed across the table. Madame Kemi's face betrayed disbelief. Her daughter's jaw tightened. Even the sons who had chuckled at her eating habits looked stunned. "This girl?" Madame Kemi whispered, as if the words themselves were impossible. "Yes," the client said firmly. "She will be the bridge between our company and yours, and anyone who cannot see her worth will lose this deal." Abeni nodded silently, her calmness masking the pride swelling in her chest. The Adeyemis had underestimated her. Every glance, every laugh, every whispered insult had only proven her resilience. Days passed after the dinner, but the memory of that evening lingered. The Adeyemis never spoke of their humiliation openly, but their behavior changed subtly. Respect replaced sarcasm, courtesy replaced mockery. Abeni continued her work quietly, efficiently, and gracefully. Her influence grew, not through arrogance or loud words, but through consistent integrity and humility. She often walked past the family members in the halls, and now they looked at her differently, some with grudging admiration, others with cautious respect. The client visited again, this time with genuine warmth. He reminded her, "True power isn't in wealth, it's in character. You showed it tonight, and that is why you lead." Abeni smiled softly. She didn't boast, she didn't celebrate. She simply knew her dignity, patience, and kindness had spoken louder than any silver fork, expensive gown, or family hierarchy ever could. In the quiet of her small office, Abeni finally allowed herself a deep breath. The world had tried to define her by poverty, by manners, by her place at a table she was not meant to belong to. But in that moment she realized she had rewritten the rules without ever raising her voice, and for the first time she felt truly free.